Yes, guys, welcome back to the weekly roundup. We're on week 6 now, week six,
Week six, take
and
six.
it's another big week. Like we said last week, a lot's going on in crypto in general, and more specifically, XRP slash Ripple, which we'll get into at the end. Obviously, as you can see here, the top. Will, what's
Yeah,
been going on this week?
everything. What hasn't been going on this week? We have seen huge volatility in the market. We've had some massive announcements from Ripple regarding XRP specifically. A lot of things that they directly said, and some things that they've indirectly said that we're going to dive into a little bit in this.
Yeah,
And yeah, I think we're still have the backlash of the UST, which we're going to dive into in a second. I can't remember whether. I don't think that is actually the whole fiasco had started last week. Actually, I don't think.
wait, I can't
No,
remember.
I don't think so.
Honestly,
I
that
think
feels like. Don't you think it feels so long ago when that happened? Because I feel like it's been in my face all week, but
yeah,
I can't
crazy.
remember when. I can't remember. I think it might have just been kicking off. I'm not too
I
sure.
think it was like
Actually, I think it did. I think it
Sunday. I
did
think it
kick
was
off.
like Sunday, Monday, but I don't know.
I can't remember.
Anyway,
But anyway, there is still news. It's obviously still going on
we'll get into it.
because I just wanted to bring it up again, just at the start of this episode, because obviously now we've got people making a big fuss about stable coins and the
Hmm.
crypto, how it needs to be regulated, etc. As you can see
Hmm.
here, G7 countries to discuss crypto regulations.
Sure.
And I watched a YouTube video today on Real Vision Finance's YouTube channel, which is a good YouTube channel. Go check it
Shout
out.
out to Real Vision.
Yeah, honestly, it's great content over there. Sorry. And basically, what they were saying is just something that me and you have been saying for the past few weeks. Basically, I think I said it. It could have been episode 1 actually when I actually said it, and it's that something like this is good because obviously it's going to bring regulation into the space, which is I don't care what anyone says, we do need it
Hmm.
for mass adoption.
Hmm.
And they were kind of saying, yeah, short term, it's not going to be too good for crypto in terms of price action because no one really likes regulation. But my thinking is, if obviously we'll go into the charts right at the end, the prices it's nothing to shout about at the moment. Whether this is the bottom or not, whether we go to 20K or whatever, sentiment's already low. Fear and greed index is on at 8. Sentiment's low. This is the perfect time to bring in regulation. Would you not say?
Hmm.
Because you don't want to bring in regulation when we're at the top almost, because that's just going to cause like a big crash in the market. So I think now is the perfect time for stuff like this to actually be happening. And obviously, it's not good for the crypto industry in general that the UST slash Luna crash happened because it just brings a lot of like bad press to the space. But in terms of regulation coming in, and I know they want to bring it at the end of this year, I just think this is the perfect time, whether it be this quarter, next quarter, or Q4,
Hmm.
to bring it in. Do you not think, in terms of
Yeah,
price, sentiment?
I think I just want to quickly touch on what happened. Obviously, like if we didn't touch on it last week, UST, which was supposed to be a stable coin, basically depegged from the value of a dollar. I'm not going to go into it deeply because I've talked about it in like all my content a lot, and it's been covered a lot anyway. Um, depegged from a dollar basically is now I think worth 10 cents. Luna went from $120 now to being practically worth 0 cent. And I think it wiped off about $60 billion worth of value, fiat value, in dollars. So it was a big thing in the crypto space. As a result of that, we had about 30% correction, 20 to 30%
Yeah.
correction across the market. Um, and yeah, sorry, what did you ask? What was the question?
I was just saying, like, obviously, the whole, as I said like a few weeks ago,
Mm.
bringing regulations not in
Oh
short
yeah,
term
sure.
price action. It's not going to be good for the market, is it?
Sure. No,
Bringing in
I
regulations. I think
think it's going to be mixed, like you say. I think initially there'll probably be a bit of a backlash to regulation. People are going to take whatever comes out is going to be seen as probably not great. But what people need to bear in mind, where they'll take into consideration, is any regulation that gives the opportunity for institutions to be able to allocate to this market, medium to long term, maybe even short term, is going to be great. Like maybe a knee-jerk reaction to any regulation that comes out might be a bit of fear, but then after that, if people realise that you can now allocate from any kind of institution or bank or something like that to crypto, any percentage of their portfolio, that's when the real numbers start to come into crypto, in my opinion.
yeah, like I said in the past, it's completely necessary. It's necessary, and in that YouTube video I was referring to, they kind of referred to this slash regulation in general as building a foundation for crypto, and I couldn't agree more because that's why I'm kind of hoping to see it sooner rather than later, honestly,
Mm.
because that's when the train's going to start.
Yeah, for
in my
sure.
opinion.
It changes the asset class, like obviously makes it more viable. It turns it from being just a speculative retail investment almost to maybe being like an actual financial asset that institutions can not only hold for speculation but also use for its actual utilities, which we obviously hold a lot of utility-based cryptos. So it really gives the scope for integration of crypto with legacy finance.
Yeah, spot on. Like I said, we won't spend too much time on it because we've spoke about it a lot over the past few weeks. But something we did speak about last week was China unbanning crypto, and obviously I've seen various articles about their mining, and I think now they've suddenly made a big comeback in mining, and I think they're the second large. They've got the second largest hash rate now. I think
Mm.
as of like last week. I forgot who it says it here. Who does all the stats, and it's the Cambridge Centre for Alternative Finance right there. So they've been doing some stats on China, and they've suddenly come out, and now they're the second biggest miner now in the world. But like this is kind of something me and you spoke about before we started doing this weekly roundup. Is that what were China's intentions of banning crypto in the first place? And for me, this kind of sums it up perfectly because I think lower down in this article, they talk about how there was underground mining facilities in China which were still mining Bitcoin whilst the ban was enforced. They were just using like VPN blockers. I can't remember what the wording is. I'll try and find it in
Mm-hmm.
here, but
Well,
it just makes you think, doesn't it? Like when they did ban Bitcoin last year, was there actually were they trying to manipulate the price? What do you think they were trying to do?
Well, I just want to stress that, like, I don't think it's unbanned. I just think that now people have realised that there's a lot of hash rate coming out of China. So, like, I think technically it's still banned in China, but which obviously makes it even more weird. Like, obvious, we don't know. We don't know. But my speculation would be, and this is obviously complete speculation, they don't want the people of China mining Bitcoin. Maybe they did want to crash the price a bit. Maybe they want to accumulate. We did say this actually at the time. I think I made some content about this, that maybe they're trying to accumulate. In my time in crypto, China have probably banned and unbanned cryptocurrency 7 times ish. In the last 2 years, they probably unbanned it and banned it 4 times. So it happens a lot. And I personally speculate that the Chinese government are probably mining Bitcoin, and that the majority of China probably don't have much access to do that anymore. And I think that there could be a few reasons for it. Maybe they want to hedge against a potential trading avenue in the future, or maybe they've got energy problems or whatever. I don't know, but they're also communist and they do what they want literally. So the government say something, everyone does it. It doesn't mean the government have to, sort of thing.
Yeah, the point I'm trying to make is just a bit fishy. What's going on there? Like the way they banned it and whether it's unbanned or not. And now it's the second biggest hash rate. It's almost like they had it going on behind the scenes. They just didn't want people to know about it. They're trying to keep their cards close to their chest anyway, trying to do,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of crypto. So whatever's going on there, I don't mind it now. If they're back in the game,
Yeah, for
it
sure.
can't be bad news, can it?
And like, yeah, exactly. Like, if they are back in the game now and it's like more publicly known, like it's good for competition and adoption. But you also remember that like China are the furthest forwards in terms of any big nation in terms of CBDCs. They got like 700 million active users using the digital yuan, which is actually nuts when you think about it. It's like 10 times the population of the UK. So it's not by any means like a small amount of people using their digital currency, which is their central bank digital currency, CBDC, by the way. So they're a leader.
Right.
They're a leader. Like, whatever they're doing, I don't know, but they are a leader.
Yeah, that's like I said. It can't be bad news anyway. But I just find it a bit funny how that's kind of it's come out that way anyway. But probably arguably one of the biggest news that came out early on this week. And
Yeah.
is this the
Can I?
El Salvadorian
Yeah.
one?
Can I just say one thing? Yeah, he's the El Salvadorian president, Nayib Bukele. I just want to say, don't you think this has kind of gone under the radar a bit?
What do you
Like,
mean? This specific?
there's not been big news
No.
about this. I think this is probably one of the biggest things ever. I'll let you explain what's going on. I just wanted to say that, like, no one's given this the right amount of news. Maybe it's
Yeah,
because
no,
of
I
market
agree.
sentiment, but like, not really a big deal was made out of it. But I think it's massive.
That's what I mean. So May 16th, when was it? Was that Monday or Tuesday? It
Yeah.
kind of, I just feel like this was tweeted. A couple of people quote retweeted it. No one really spoke about it. I've not seen it around on YouTube too much, if I'm honest with you. But basically, as you can see here, 32 central banks and 12 financial authorities, that's 44 countries, will meet in El Salvador to discuss financial inclusion, digital economy, banking, and unbanked, the Bitcoin rollout benefits in our country. So basically, a load of countries went to El Salvador to speak with the president, basically to see how his experience with adopting it as legal tender is going. Basically, in my eyes, that's what I see it as.
Hmm.
And as you can see here, there's a huge list of the countries. There's not really any big countries in there, but there are at the same time. But
Yeah,
it's just huge news, man. It's just massive. Like,
I think it's huge. So what? We've had two countries adopt Bitcoin and like come out and fully adopt it. We've got all these countries. There's not some. They're like Egypt, Jordan, Nigeria. They're not small.
they're not
Pakistan,
small. Yeah,
Morocco. They're not
true,
like they're
true.
not tiny countries. Obviously, some are small, but I think it just really shows the stress on the economies that the strong dollar's having at the minute. People looking for alternative payment methods, alternative store of value. Think of these countries who maybe have high inflation anyway, and their currency is trying to compete with that of the increase in dollar strength. The dollar's been, I know, like the last few days, and we'll talk about this towards the end, but until the last few days, the dollar has been increasing by like 0.5% a day. Imagine trying to, you can't trade cross border with anything else. If you're a country that can't barely afford dollars, imagine trying to trade and everything gets 0.5% more expensive every day. That is insane.
It's crazy, honestly. You'll see tweets out there where people actually try and break down percentages of inflation when they kind of relate it to the dollar and compare it that way. And it's the numbers are just crazy, and it just shows how desperate people, not desperate because I'm not saying crypto people are resorting to crypto as a last resort, but like you can see how much of an issue it is if 44 countries are going to El Salvador to kind of almost see how it's going on. They've obviously thought about exploring it, haven't they?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is why it's so big, and like again, it's not really got too much coverage. But in
I think
terms of
it's
what was said in
huge.
it or what they got out of it, I'm sure at least so say 44 countries went, if a quarter of them walked out of there thinking, okay, we should probably start getting everything rolling in terms of getting maybe not adopting Bitcoin as legal tender, but exploring the crypto
Yeah.
industry as a whole.
Yeah, or even adopting Bitcoin in general. Like we know that Bitcoin's like the the tide that raises all boats or whatever the terminology is behind that. But if you think that El Salvador have already, as a small country, I don't know what their GDP is, but it's not huge, but they've already bought and hold now 2,000 Bitcoin from one country. So imagine what
So
like 44 countries could bring through. Some of these will have bigger GDPs than El Salvador, probably most. Like El Salvador's a pretty small country, so it just shows like adoption's getting closer. It's already happening, and I feel like people are kind of. Well, when El Salvador announced they were going to hold Bitcoin, obviously that was huge news, the first country, and then we had the Central African Republic a few weeks ago. That didn't really get that much of a hype either. But now we've got 44 countries who went to El Salvador to talk about at least they were at least talked about Bitcoin, and
100%, yeah.
and like no one's talking about it. 44 countries is mad. It's mad. It's
I know.
insane. It's actually insanity. This is a world that's been dominated by the dollar since Bretton Woods, when like after World War Two, and never done anything digital currency wise. And all of a sudden, in the last 2 years, we've gone from one country to two countries, and now 44 having a meeting about it. It's insane.
I
It's
know.
insane.
Is that because? Do you think that's just because of the sentiment in the market? People are just thinking, oh, it's just another bit of news. Like X amount of countries have already thought about adopting Bitcoin as legal tender, or do you just think it's just slid under the radar kind of thing?
I think it's completely based on market sentiment. I think that when market sentiment's low, no one cares what news is out there. I think people hide under the rug as soon as price action comes down. Everything that's negative or could be negative about the market takes the spotlight, and everything that could be positive
Yeah,
doesn't even
spot on.
matter really.
Yeah, so I was going to say, like, say if the market sentiment was a bit higher, say if like the prices were not at all-time highs, but pretty high, close to all-time highs,
Yeah.
something like this comes out, people will be raving about it, wouldn't they?
Oh yeah,
It'll
it'd be
be all
going
over
nuts.
Twitter.
Yeah.
Everyone would be like making TikToks about it left, right, and center. But due to the fact where we are in terms of price action and just sentiment in general, like I said, fear and greed index is printed like at 8 this week, which is lowest since I can't remember what date you
I
said,
think it's
but
like in 2018, sometime in
yeah, it's
2018.
ridiculous amount of time. But
It
it's honestly crazy. Like,
it highlights how emotional the markets are. If, as you were saying, if this comes out near a top, we probably get a big rally off this. It comes out in a really low sentiment, and it gets brushed under the rug. But if anything negative comes out, it's this absolute spotlight, because how everyone's feeling is really highlighted by, or the news is highlighted by, like, how everyone's feeling. So whenever, whatever news you get, and you often get good and bad news no matter where we are in the cycle, it's just that one is emphasized more than others depending on price action.
Yeah, literally just depends on how people are feeling in terms of emotion, isn't it?
And you have to remove yourself from that if you want to survive in this market long term, by the way.
Oh, 100%. That is one thing we've learned, isn't it, since we've stepped foot in the crypto market as well. But it's hard to do. It honestly is really hard to do, especially when you're invested like certain, well, obviously we're quite heavily invested in it. If you are, even if you've got a little bit invested, it's hard not to get emotional, because just due to the fact that it's so volatile. But like you said, if you can't hack it, then you shouldn't really be trading, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah,
that's just the reality.
If you are feeling emotional about it, then you've probably got too much exposure, or you don't have the understanding that you need to have that much exposure. Like your risk tolerance your risk is too high for your tolerance. They're the reasons that I'd say. So
moving on, we're going to start getting into the XRP.
This is the big stuff, by the way. The big
stuff. This specific one's not. It's quite big, to be fair. But I just
cool.
Eases into XRP anyway. But Balmain, if you don't know who Balmain are, a pretty big, luxurious brand.
If you don't know, get to know.
If you don't know, get to know. Very expensive as well. But they're teaming up with Mint NFT Official to create a non-fungible thread on the XRPL. And bearing in mind, the XLS20 only got introduced. When was it?
I don't think it's live yet. I'm not sure.
I think it. I'm pretty sure it is. I don't know, but they've not finished developing it any regardless. But it's a huge brand coming into it straight away. It's like they've just taken a massive risk and just gone straight into it.
But I mean, a massive in retail fashion.
Oh, mate, they are.
They're huge, and so a company like that to be making NFTs on the XRP ledger is just massive. It kind of came out of nowhere as well. It's still not. Again, that's another thing. Look, it's only had 7,000 views. It's like. It's not even taking any. No one. It's almost like no one cares.
No one does care, honestly. Like for me, it's personally, it's been the opposite. Like I care more now because I want to know what's going on. I want to try to read the market a bit better. But I feel like this just shows, like you said, it just people's emotions. Like fear is by far the strongest emotion out there. People are just so fearful right now. They almost don't want to look at the good stuff coming out of it because they don't believe it anymore. I don't know. It's just completely down to sentiment, in my opinion, in terms of all this news. Because even like the news we're about to get onto. In terms of XRP, I know you touched on it in your TikTok. Like, I'm just so surprised it's not caused a reaction in the price. If we were at a higher price, I guarantee you it would have shifted a little bit, whether it be percentages and whatnot. But today, it's obviously not.
I think this news we're about to get into now is probably the biggest week of news for Ripple and XRP that we've had in at least this year, at least 100%. Like in 2022, maybe even in 2021.
Yeah, let's get into it then.
Yeah, it's big.
So. We'll move into this one first. On-demand liquidity bought to Lithuanian provider Finci. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it. Sorry.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Huge news got announced. I think it was yesterday or the day before. Well, this is actually May 3rd, but I feel like it's only been blowing up over this past few days.
Yeah, they only really announced it yesterday, but I think they might have written this a while ago.
And it's huge news because it's bringing cross-border payments into Europe basically. And it's just shedding a massive spotlight onto it.
So obviously, for those of you who don't know, like ODL, on-demand liquidity, directly leverages XRP. I think they have, at the minute, 22 corridors open. Now they just added Lithuania in there. Before this, we didn't have any European corridors. It was mainly like Asia, like Middle East areas as well. I think some Central American areas. But now adding Lithuania is obviously the first step into Europe. And I'd let you... continue.
Yeah, just interesting things on this actual page here, because here they just whip out some stats like 70% of European financial institutions surveyed believe blockchain will have a significant impact on their businesses in the next 5 years, and 59% of the respondents already interested using this technology for payments. So, and then the main paragraph for me is at the end when they talk about, we're delighted that Finci is our latest ODL deployment in Europe, and we're looking forward to soon announcing additional European partners. So they've got the ball rolling already. Europe are interested, as you can see from those stats there, and you can tell Ripple are completely taking advantage of that, and they're trying to really become the front runners, I'd say, obviously in the world, but they're really targeting Europe at the moment, pushing there. So it's just huge. It honestly is massive news again.
And it all links into the next few things we're going to talk about. So, like, guys, you're really going to have to listen in here because we're about to drop a lot of information on you, to be fair.
Yeah, so this is just a taster. It's just I think it's just a stepping stone in terms of what Ripple are trying to do at the moment. And like we said last week and the week before, despite being getting sued in the US by the SEC, there's nothing stopping them from completing their mission elsewhere. And again, it's just a bit of like a middle finger to USA, and you're just going to fall behind if you don't sort this out. But the tasty stuff is coming here now.
Yep.
Do you want to introduce this?
Yeah, is it? I don't know which one this is, but let's go to.
It's the Pilau.
Yeah, okay. Go to the Wrath Economy one first, because it kind of.
Wrath Economy first.
Yeah, and then we'll go back to that one, because this one kind of links in with that, I guess.
Yeah, so the Wrath Economy, this is he's making a thread here. He's talking about Ripple's CBDC work with Bhutan, and he's talking about a thread that Leonardus kind of tweeted here. So basically, he's made a thread, and there's various clips that Crypto Insights made TikToks on it anyway. So go ahead and watch them. They're only about 2-minute clips each, but he's just basically explaining what Ripple are trying to do with Bhutan. But what this thread kind of highlights is a relationship that could be going on behind closed doors or could be introduced in the foreseeable future. So if you go down in the thread, he's basically talking about India's potential relationship with Ripple and how they can come into play on the back of this news. So
yeah,
obviously Bhutan.
I can jump in a little bit. So I don't know if anyone really knows this in the chat, and I think you have to go and dig pretty deeply to find this information. And it might have been from a David Schwartz interview specifically, but one of the ways Ripple were going to launch back in the day, I don't know if I've talked about this on a podcast or not, I've definitely talked about it on lives before, is that back in the day, when Ripple were first trying to launch, they had loads of different ideas, and one of them was actually to airdrop XRP to a lot of the Indian population, just the general retail population, and let them use it to interact with each other. So I've always had speculation. The two countries I've always had speculation on are India and Brazil. Okay, I always thought there was something going on with India and Brazil. The India clip comes from David Schwartz, and Brazil is just my personal speculation, but we'll get onto that another time because Brad Gardenhouse has met the Brazilian president and BRICS nations, etc. But we're staying on India here. So the Indian rupee is not used in Bhutan, but their currency, I don't know how you say,
Nagutrams,
that is paired to the price or pegged to the price of the Indian rupee, and that is what is being created into a CBDC using the XRP ledger. So there's obviously some sort of speculation from us, and obviously Wrath Economy here, and if you scroll down a little bit more, he lists all the banks that already work with RippleNet, not necessarily with ODL, but with RippleNet. There's like how many banks there? Like 8 or 9 banks, as you can see on screen: Axis, Kotak, Indusland, Yes Bank, Federal Bank, HDFC, and Tata Consultancy and FSS, who already work with RippleNet, and now we've got a potential rupee, or the price of a rupee, being like currency being created on the XRP ledger. So do you want to touch anything on that path?
Yeah, so just from my basic understanding, here in this thread, he's basically talking about the relationship between those two currencies, how they're pegged together. And he's obviously, you can see by point number 3, 97% of imports and then 74% of exports are with India. So he was kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, he was kind of saying all this could potentially be moved onto the XRP out, or quite a bit of it could, which is good, which is great news anyway. But what else I'm pretty sure I read this earlier, what else is he trying to indicate? Because obviously he's indicating here Ripple are already working or in contact with India, with the National Payments Corporation of India.
Yeah. I think he's hinting at, like, if they've already got like an Indian like currency backed by, like, tied to the price of the rupee, or the rupiah, I don't know how you pronounce it, then how hard is it going to be for the next step to be taken up? Especially when I've just talked about what I've said with David Schwartz and the way they were going to create XRP and airdrop it in the first place, and then you see all the Ripple partners already utilizing Ripple's like technology, who are already in India. So I'm not saying anything's going to happen, but I'm just putting 2 and 2 together and making 4. And there's one extra thing, is that FinC, if you go on their actual homepage, do we have that open? I don't know.
No, but I can.
You know what I'm talking about, though, do you?
Yeah, I can't. Don't know if this will take
Yeah,
me to. I think this that just
hopefully.
takes me to the. I'm sure I clicked on this earlier. It just takes me to like actually getting the card sorted, but
Oh, okay.
this doesn't take me to the home site,
Okay,
unfortunately.
well, on Fincey's home site, the thing that hits you in the face is um, taking cross-border payments from Europe to India. That's the first thing that it says. So that I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I know we're only speculating, but it's just again with everything we've spoken about with XRP, it's an educated guess, really, isn't it? Like you can, they're not announcing it, but there's huge potential there, isn't there, for this to happen? Like if they could tap into that in get in with India, which I'm very confident they could do, as and when they sort everything out, it would just be such a huge like. Imagine what that would do to the price and just everything in general. It's just India's such a big potential market. I think a ridiculous percentage of people use or want to use crypto anyway.
Mm-hmm.
They're quite a young population,
Cheap
very
data.
tech savvy, cheap data. It's the perfect place to kind of establish yourself, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I'd say so.
It's, out of all the countries in the world, you would say that's very much at the top of the list. I would say anyway.
Yeah, I'd say it's high. It's high up there. It's emerging economy. Like I think that we could India could have a boom, and like so, what better time to be utilizing the product that we like.
I know, literally. If you think about, even if you just look at as there's take a step back, they're still a developing country and they're yet to experience that massive surge and that growth as a country. And if we if Ripple get involved and potentially work with India's CBDC in the future,
Mm-hmm.
it's massive. It's absolutely massive.
Yeah,
You
so
don't even really need the US at this point.
the four main speculative takeaways that you can tie together to make the speculation are they're going to have a digital, not necessarily Rupal, but something tied to the price of a Rupal. So basically a digital Rupal stablecoin. They've already got that many banks that you can see on the screen there working as Ripple partners. And they've now Fincey, who have opened an ODL corridor between Lithuania. By the way, when you just want to quickly divert, just come off that track. When you open an ODL corridor like Fincey have with Lithuania, that plugs into the other 22 corridors. So now they've got a liquid connection between all those corridors. So now we've got Fincey, who are obviously tied to India. They haven't got that corridor open at the minute, but these are the speculations. The digital Rupal, all the banks, and then David Schwartz with his original idea of how to get XRP adoption, all tied together, leads me towards something could be coming from India soon. And you, obviously, that's our opinion, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Like you can see the dots already coming into place. It's just whether you can make you based on the information we've got. It's not. I wouldn't say it's ridiculous to make the assumptions that we're trying to make here.
Mm-mm.
It's like I said, it's very much an educated guess. Whether you like XRP or not, you can't really argue with the fact what they're doing, and more importantly, you can't argue with the fact that they're don't bet against yourself that they're not doing it behind closed doors
Mm.
and sorting out other partnerships, just like Fincey or whatever they're doing here with Central and SPC. Losing my track of thought here. CBDCs.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just for me, it's the information's there. It's just whether you want to read into it and make those assumptions. But
Yeah, and join the dots. And then
join the dots.
the next step is another huge one that we've had this week, which is about Palau. And I'll just touch on that quickly if you like.
Yeah,
We'll try and keep this quite short because we're already like going quite long on this podcast. So this is an interesting one for me again because when Bhutan and Palau got announced, I was thinking, okay, like they're not. I've never even heard of either of them to be completely honest. So I was like, that I don't know who they are. Is it really a big announcement? But now we've got Bhutan's currencies tied to the price of the rupee. I'm thinking, okay, that's a bit maybe coincidental, but it's a big currency. And then we've got Palau who actually use the dollar, and they want the Palau dollar, which and in these clips, if you go and watch these from Leonidas, they're great clips, and it's James Wallace who's VP of a central bank digital currency or central bank relations at Ripple. He's talking about that Palau are going to have a digital Palau dollar tied to the price of a dollar, so it's going to be the first government-backed stablecoin. At the time when we're having stablecoin madness all over the market and everyone's looking for regulation. He then goes on to say that they're going to create a P2P lending platform, which is essentially DeFi. It just means you can loan people money, your digital currency, for interest or whatever, loan period or whatever you want, which creates DeFi and a government-backed stablecoin, therefore taking the risk away from any collapse of that stablecoin because it's literally government-backed. And obviously this timing could be completely coincidental, but I don't know. I don't know if I believe in coincidences at this point. Like, too many things like this happen. And one other thing that I keep hearing from Ripple, and we've already just seen from the ODL section, and he says, he being James Wallace says in this, he's like, these are just from, and we heard Brad Garnhouse say as well, these are just from the people who we can announce right now.
Yeah, I feel like Ripple are saying that a lot recently. Even Brad said it in an interview we covered. I think it could be week 1. They always keep going back to the fact that they can only announce what they can, and which again leads me to think that they've got so much going on, and I 100% know they have as well. They've got so much going on behind closed doors as well, which I'll keep saying every week. But
so we've seen Brad say that the other week. We've seen Sendy Young just say that on the ODL, and James Wallace also says it in these interviews as well. So,
and it's on their website when they're talking about this.
Yeah, that's
it. Looking forward to announcing additional. They're just doing so much. Honestly, they're making so many moves, and people are still happy to hate on XRP. I don't understand it. And obviously we're biased towards XRP/Ripple, but for me, it's clear as day.
Oh yeah, I mean something's happening. So I don't know what it is, but something's happening.
Time will tell.
Time will tell.
I don't know. I'd be quite confident to say what's happening, but
yeah, same.
That's for everyone else's assumption to me. Yes.
And to finish, we are going to look at the charts, the big old charts.
Charts. We've been just in this range recently, like we said last week, what we thought would happen as well. And then obviously been watching a lot of YouTube this week as well in terms of just the general macro environment, etc. Just to see what people are thinking really. But in terms of where we're going, it's really hard to say. We've got a lot of people calling out for the 20k. Whether that happens is anyone's guess really. I'm not in any boat whether we go to 20 or even I've heard 12k. I'm not in any boat in terms of how low it can go because we shout about, it's all about DCAing at this point, just trying to get as much exposure as you can afford at these low prices. Because what their argument is, I'll quickly show you. Their argument for the 12k is that if you measure this move from this top here to that bottom, and you basically, if you draw a trend line from there to there and draw it down from here, it takes you down to 12k basically. That's the measured move that they're discussing.
Yeah.
Whether that happens, I don't know. It just
and to back
I've said
that,
it before, but
and to back that move from the 2 previous cycles that we've had like an 85 to 90% correction from the high of Bitcoin being 69k would take us down to the 10 to 15k range. But the big assumption from all this is where it's really hard because as we've already talked about in this podcast, when we have positive news in a negative sentiment market, nothing happens. So right now everyone's screaming bear, and I see why. I can see why in the wider macros as well. I get it, but that is assuming that 69,000 is the top for Bitcoin. We can't prove that right now. If we're in lengthening cycles, the top should be later. That's one of my arguments. We've got a really strong dollar, which is basically crushing everything. But the last few days, the dollar has actually retraced a bit. So that's basically where the conflicting. It's just all conflict. There's so many conflicting pieces of information. We could go all day on it, but I don't think you can have any conviction either way. So what I'm doing personally at the minute is I've got some cash on the side and I've got some buy orders in at lower prices for XRP specifically. It's all I'm really picking up, some XLM as well. And if it comes down and hits them prices, great. I get bigger bags. And if it goes higher from here, great. My account value goes up. But I don't think it's fair to put conviction on any direction. People say, oh yeah, it looks like it's a bear market, this and this. This is happening in the wider economy. Well, actually, we've got no data to show. And they're saying, oh, this time it's different. We're in a recession. It could come lower than it has before. Just as easily could go back up. It's acting as a risk-on asset at the minute in correlation to what equities are doing. Who says that it's going to perform that way? We have no data to show what XRP, or not XRP, but crypto specifically can do in a recessionary period. Is it going to act as a risk-off asset? Are institutions going to need to put their money somewhere? We really, really don't know. And that is the absolute answer. So if anyone's coming through and telling you this is exactly what's happening, they aren't taking into consideration the whole picture. That's what I want to say, but I'll let you go and do some TA
No,
packs. I want your opinion as well.
I think you're spot on there. Honestly, like just to touch on that, go, even if you sit on YouTube and look at all these like big names talking about the macro environment, etc., even they have different opinions to each other. Where in the past they kind of all followed suit in terms of the general direction where everything was going.
Mm.
There's a lot of conflicting information out there because, like we say week in week out on this, we go what's happening right now and what potentially we're going to go into a potential recession. It's just absolute madness, and everything seems to be happening at the same time. So there's a lot of different theories colliding with each other. That's the kind of way I see it as well at the moment. But in terms of moving forward, if you are trading or if you are trying to build a position, best thing to do is just like Will said last week, get your price targets and just buy in certain percentages as and when it hits it. If it doesn't hit it, then at least you DCA'd in and you still got a decent amount of exposure. But in terms of TA, like I said, I've not really spent too much time in saying, okay, I think it's going to hit 21K. I think it's going to hit this figure or whatever. Like I said, my strategy, I'm in a similar situation to I've got going to have cash sitting on the side, waiting for it to hit my potential targets. If we don't hit the targets, then it doesn't. I've still got a decent amount of exposure as it stands,
Yeah.
and that's the main thing I kind of preach to anyone is just do that. I wouldn't just jump in. I wouldn't try and wait for a bottom just because you watched the YouTube video and this guy said it's going to 15K or this guy said it's going to 12K, because you could potentially miss an opportunity of an absolute lifetime.
Yeah.
Like,
And that's something I really want to stress is that like I think this is the opportunity of like generations. I think this could be the opportunity of almost human civilization. As ridiculous as that sounds, this is a revolution of our monetary system. It's going to blow the stocks and share and equities market out the water in terms of potential returns if this gets integrated into society, which well, it's already being integrated. So to try and argue over 50% at this price is really tough. I think that anyone trying to find a bottom is in a really hard position, because when you've got an emerging asset class and a growing asset class like this, and we've got so many conflicting bits of information, so high volume could signal a bottom. We've got the fear and greed index, the lowest it's been. It indicated the bottom last time we were down here. Yes, the macros could show that it could come lower, so there's two massive like conflicting factors. But if you don't have exposure and the upside, the thing I draw people back to, I'm getting my words out here. The thing that I really draw people back to, if we use XRP specifically, for example, it's at 41 cent, whatever, it's up 3% today. The downside risk to XRP, in my opinion, I don't think it goes much lower than 20 cent. I could be wrong on that. Let's just say hypothetically 20-ish cent is where the downside risk is. That's a 50% drop from where we are right now for XRP. Our upside potential, my upside targets personally for this cycle are about $13. It gives you about, from here to $13 is like a 25x, I think. Is that right? Let's have a look percentage wise.
Mouthless today as well. Oh, that's not what I needed.
The dictionary.
So what, $13 you said?
$13. Yeah, let's
There you
go
go.
right there. So it's a 30x. So you've got a 30 to 1 risk to reward there.
And this is what I try and say to like some of my friends as well. Even if you're like not too big into crypto or you don't have the time to do constant research, even if you get in at these prices, I mean, say if we go into like a long bear market here and it takes X amount of years for us to get out, it's just it's a solid investment regardless, because even whether it's XRP, Bitcoin, or whatever crypto, I'd choose obviously a big established one, because I think a lot of these won't be around for too much longer. But let's take XRP for example, and they do end up getting partnerships in like 3 years once we come out of this cycle, once they've settled the lawsuit or whatever. And you say if you put like £1,000 in, which is just money you've got sitting on the side, which you don't mind seeing for the next few years, it's just a no-brainer for me. It honestly is a no-brainer in terms of an investment.
Yeah. And what you're talking about, what you're talking about there, that's worst case. Like, and what my point is that, like, so worst case, we sit through a bear market now, which I don't think will be as long anyway, because we're already halfway through what typically has been a bear market. We have regulation around the corner. So at some point, institutional money will come in. So how deep we go, I don't know. So worst case, let's say absolute worst case, we get hit with a big recession and it affects the price of crypto. We come down 50% and we stay there for a year and a half. That's absolute worst case scenario, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Best case is tomorrow someone comes out and says, "Oh, I'm using crypto for this." Anyone. Like, this is the stage of the market that we're in. The stage of the market we're in, Apple buy Bitcoin tomorrow, bang, game's back on. Bank of England come out and say, oh, we're experimenting on the XRP ledger for our sovereign bonds. Game is back on. Anything could happen. So don't. I find it's such a risk when people say, oh, I'm selling my bag at this, I'm going to buy back at this price. You're going to cut yourself out of exposure to an asset class that literally nobody in the world knows where it's going to go. No matter how good a trader, investor, whatever you are, this asset class has and will continue to wrong for everybody. Don't be completely one way or another ever, in my opinion. Like, prepare for both scenarios, but always keep some exposure. If you think the market will succeed long term, because no one knows the time frame, is basically the biggest thing, isn't it?
100%. If you believe in it long term, getting exposure, regardless of whatever price it is now, is good exposure in my opinion. And I think that's what you have to kind of go by. Because honestly, like we just said, I don't think anyone knows what's going on. We could go lower. We could shoot up within the next month. Who knows? Like you said, Bitcoin's not crypto's not been around in a recession. Who knows how it's going to react to that? Nobody knows. You can only assume it's going to go down 30% because everyone keeps shouting about that, but who actually knows the answer to that? And if you don't have exposure, say something like that drastic does happen, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot, and you're just going to kind of be quite good, I think. So
yeah, and like it, just as we've talked about a lot in this, it's very easy to get caught up in negative sentiment when the price action is negative, and it's easy to think the sky's falling. It's easy to think it's coming down forever, and it doesn't mean it isn't going to continue to continue on a downtrend. It doesn't mean that. But I'm just saying, look at it with a level head, and look actually where we are in price comparison to where we've been. Like, these prices are really, really decent. Whether we get better opportunities or not, I don't know. But if you don't have exposure, I'd just be considering your options. Non-financial
100%.
advice, obviously.
Yeah, do your own research, but that is the research. But no.
Do your own research, but listen up, dude.
Listen up. But no, I think that will wrap it up for us, I think, this week.
Yeah, and that was actually a really great episode, to be honest.
A lot of news, obviously massive XRP news. Honestly, guys, read into those articles if you got a bit of time, and maybe watch a couple of Crypto Insights YouTube videos, because he does do a good job in explaining what they actually mean. But yeah, it's huge. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Don't believe
and we'll see you next week.
Peace up, A-Town down.